Hello and welcome back to Some of Our Parts, a podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
I'm Jim.
and this week it was Jim's pick. So, Jim, tell us about the movie that you selected.
Well, in honor of summer coming on and the everybody going to the beach, and I was thinking about my time when I was graduating high school and beach and blockbusters. I picked Jaws.
Dun, dun,
Dun, dun, dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun.
dun, dun.
Couple of reasons. Why was it? Of course, everybody knows the movie and so on. Of course, he's going
Mhm.
to pick a well-known movie, but two things that stood out to me about this movie when it came out. One, I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia, and it was the first time that I'd seen people line up around the block to go see a movie. Uh,
Mhm.
and then I worked across the street. This was right around when I was graduating high school from the movie theater. Yes, the movie theater in my little town, and people were lined up. It was unbelievable. And then the second reason is that after graduation, all of our most of our class were going down to Myrtle Beach for our graduation party, and
Mhm.
none of us had ever seen the ocean or been to a beach that size. And of course we go down, and it's okay, I'll tell the story. And we're down at the beach, and one of our friends is out on one of the little rafts, and he's floating around, and we've had a few beers or whatever, and then we see fins in the water, not knowing anything else except what we've seen at the movie in Jaws. We assume it's
Oh
a shark
gosh.
and sharks, so we start hollering shark, 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 and then of course the lifeguards look, and they they start the whistles and stuff without knowing, and then they come running down, and then one of the guys looks out and goes, where, and we're pointing out at the ocean to where our friend is laying out there or out on the raft, and he goes, those are dolphins, you dumbass. So they were not happy with us. Of course, our friend who was out on the raft and suddenly perked up, and he looks around and he sees fins, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he starts paddling like crazy to get into shore. So but anyway, so those are the two big things, or well, I guess the three big things that this movie mental it made a big impression on me. So and then it was very suspenseful, very terrifying,
Mhm.
in a different way to see it on the big screen. And then I wish that you and I briefly talked about this, and that's a great idea. I hope they bring it back to the big screen next year on its 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like
oh
they
yeah,
they like have to, right? They've done it with a lot of other big movies we were
I
talking about. Like I saw like 2022, I think it was The Godfather 50th anniversary, so I saw that.
and
Like it feels like a no-brainer. Like
Casablanca they brought back, I think, for the 75th anniversary. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
like
so
you know what? The summer box office is struggling so far this year. So next
mm,
year that feels like a sort of guaranteed way to like get it going because this was kind of the original summer blockbuster movie. Like this started that
yes,
whole thing of like, release these big movies in the summer to get people to come.
because it used to be before that the new movies were released around Christmas time. It
Hmm.
was around the holiday season. So yeah, so this was the first one that came out at the beginning of summertime, which I think yeah, it sort of set the precedent. So
Yeah. And I also was reading too, this was sort of one of the first big like high concept films. And so like high concept being like it's sort of a film with like a series of events that are kind of one like easily summarized, right? Like there's a shark terrorizing a beach town and kind of outside of everyday life, in contrast to like a low concept film, which is really like kind of following a character sort of
mhm,
thing. So it's a little bit harder to like summarize in a sentence. So this is
right,
also kind of starting that trend of films like that, that it's like, here's what it's about.
yeah,
Like this
and
kind of big crazy thing, but like easy to sort of summarize. And I also think
yeah,
that probably like helps make it more popular, right? You can be like, a shark is
yeah,
eating people.
is eating
That's what
people.
it's
Yeah,
about. Whereas
and
it's like, if it's like a character study movie, you're like, well, there's this guy and he's like
and
going through some things and like, da, da, da. This is like,
right.
there's a shark and it's eating people.
And they got to stop the shark.
Yes.
And do they get to stop the shark? So
Yes. It's a beach town.
yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, and yeah, whatever little stories, and so which we'll get into is the sidelines. It's a beach town. They depend on the tourist revenue, and
Mhm.
the last thing you want is shut down the beaches.
Right.
And
Right.
so anyway, so that was my pick, and I'm assuming that you had seen the movie. I'm sure already.
Yes, yes. I don't think I saw it until, like, at least high school, maybe
Hmm.
later than that. I think
Hmm.
I was an easily scared child, so no one was gonna show me this.
Oh,
I watched the movie Deep Blue Sea when I was, like, 8, and I didn't even wanna get in the bath. I was like,
ooh,
I'm not messing
mm,
around with water right now. Have you seen these
oh,
sharks, mom?"
smart
So,
sharks.
yeah, the sharks those sharks in Deep Blue Sea were enhanced. They were extra smart.
Exactly.
Who's to say they couldn't get in my bathtub? But my
Exactly.
mom was like, you have to bathe. Take a shower then. They can't fit through the shower head." But yeah, like, I think no one was gonna show me this movie. I think I actually first I went to Universal Studios in Hollywood before I'd seen this movie, so I got to see the, like,
So
Bruce coming out of the water at
coming out of the water.
our little
So
tram, before I'd ever seen the movie. Although I do think that demystified it a little bit for me because I was like, "Oh, okay, it's just a." It was a little scary though, because like it's kind of close,
well, and I really don't
especially if you're
know.
sitting on that side.
I was going to say if you're there, especially, I'm sure just the sheer size of it, because it is like a huge big thing, right? I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
yeah.
it just kind of you're, like, on a little bridge and it, like,
Hmm.
sort of pokes its head up out of the water, so you don't get to
Yeah.
see, like, the full but it is, like it gets closer than you expect it to get, so it's like I was like, "Oh, this is dumb, whatever, it's just, like, a fake mechanical shark," and then when it happened, I was like, "Oh, okay." That was a little bit more than I expected, but yeah, like, it was something I've definitely seen before, like, now, just,
Okay.
it wasn't something that I, like, grew up watching for sure, though, because
Gotcha.
that
Uh,
was not within, like, what would've, been acceptable for child me, because it
Okay.
would've been, yeah, I would've been like you guys at the beach, and I'm from Maryland, I am not a landlocked state person. I would have never wanted to go to Ocean City again. So, which would have been a problem for my family and our beach vacations and stuff, so,
Well,
yeah.
I do know that when we went down and after graduation, and that even though we didn't know about sharks, that there were any, but I was a little leery. I did not go way out into the
Oh,
water.
yeah.
That was just, as far as I could walk, that's as far as I went, where it came up to
Mhm.
my waist or my chest. So after that, everybody was on their own. We had a pool at the hotel. So if I wanted to get wet, I was
Yeah,
going into the pool. So,
for
um,
sure.
but so, do you want to summarize the movie then from your perspective? Of you
Sure.
do that so well. So if you want
Well,
to
I'll
start
try to
off,
be brief. I'm normally very wordy. But yeah, so well, it opens with some drunk kids having like a bonfire on a beach, like teenagers, young adults, I guess. And some girl decides to go skinny dipping. Some drunk dude is going to go with her, but he's too drunk to make it out. And this is kind of the first glimpse that we get. We don't actually get like a glimpse actually when I this is the first indication that something is wrong cuz she's out there swimming, she goes out pretty far, and then suddenly something's grabbed her, she's screaming, she's being dragged around and just being kind of brutalized. And this is like we're 5 minutes into the movie and
yeah, this
somebody's
is
dead.
yeah, you're hit in the face with this right away.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't see what killed her. Obviously, we know what the movie's about. It's a shark, but we don't see it. Um then we meet kind of our protagonist, which is Chief Brody, who is the new police chief at this place Amity, which is it's basically like Martha's Vineyard.
Which is
Little
where it was filmed, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
little island in New England. He came from New York, so this is sort of like let me go somewhere that's like more chill and
hmm,
easy. Little did he know. He also is not a fan of water. So
exactly. He's, yeah, definitely afraid of it. So,
yeah, let's move to an island. That sounds
uh,
good. There's a missing persons report. They end up finding the remains or what parts remain of this girl that was killed named Chrissy. I think it's like her like a hand. and
It's
like,
like her upper torso with
yeah,
one arm
yeah,
and nothing else.
yeah, and it's being
Yeah,
like, it's in a fishing net, it's being crawled over by all these little tiny crabs. It's again, it's a gruesome image,
yeah,
and it's like clearly there's some like carnage has been done. And I think we also get pretty early on that this is the PR of this is not cool for Amity, because even the medical examiner initially says, yeah, like she got eaten by a shark.
yeah.
But once the mayor has intervened, oh no, 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 no. Now it's a boating accident.
Hmm.
Um, Chief Brody wants to close the beach. And the mayor is like, no. This is like the beginning of summer. All the tourists are about to come. You're not closing the beach. Absolutely not. And then somebody else dies. This time a little kid, which
In
that one's kind of sad.
Well, it's
And
very
it's like
sad.
in front of everyone.
Everyone,
Yeah, the
exactly.
beach is crowded, right? The mayor wants everybody to go to the beach. Chief Brody is there with his kids, who he like, maybe let's get stay out. Why don't you all build some sandcastles
Hmm.
while we're here? And everybody's out playing. There's a little boy that goes out on his raft. And again, we don't we don't see it. We get some views like from the shark's perspective, right? We're
So yeah, it's
underwater.
like all
We see all
POV.
the kicking legs, and it's like,
Hmm.
ooh, who are we gonna nibble on today? And then it snatches the little boy, and everybody starts like running um
And
out of
even
the
that scene is, yeah, is
it's so
it's
tense.
brief, but it's intense, and it's almost like a geyser of blood.
Yeah. And even like leading up to that, it's very like tense, right? Because like
Hmm.
Brody is sitting there, and every
Hmm.
time he he hears a girl scream, but she's just like splashing around with her boyfriend or whatever. Like he's so attuned to everything, and like you are too as the viewer, right? Because it's like we know that there is a shark out there. And all
Right.
these people are in the then it's like the guy's playing with his dog, and it's like, where'd the dog go? Did the dog eat the shark? The shark eat the dog? Not the dog eat the shark. Did the shark eat the dog? And then we hear the music too. That's the
Mm.
cue for us, right? We know
and, and
something is about to happen. Shout out to John Williams.
probably one of the most recognizable pieces of music ever, don't
And
you
like the
think?
most simple,
Yeah.
right? It's just two,
I mean,
is
people
it's
know
E
that
and
as
F, I
soon as you
think.
do, yeah,
Yeah.
and and as soon as you start that, people know, oh,
Yeah.
that's Jaws, the theme from Jaws,
Dun 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 dun
and
dun.
and all he does is increase the tempo, to signify that either it's impending or it's getting closer, and then or it slows it down to
Yeah.
back it off. So,
Yeah, so it's like you said, he snatches up the shark, snatches up the boy. It's like there's blood and like
oh,
chum, and we get that like that iconic like zoom in on
perfect,
Brody.
and
Um,
the look on his face,
yeah, because it's
you
just
know,
like he knew this was gonna happen.
right?
And this is exactly what he wanted to avoid. And then it's just like everybody gets out of the water, everybody's accounting for their kids. And then the mom is looking for her son. And then like the chewed up raft washes out.
And I that's a great scene because it that in a little bit of pinkish blood. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it just
Mm-hmm.
rolls in, and it's like this, yeah, these big holes in this part of a raft,
Mm-hmm.
and you just your heart sinks, I think,
Yeah.
and then she's like, just beside herself. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what a choice having like, and I don't know, did you read the book also on what this
I
is
did,
based?
and there are
Yeah.
some differences in the story, and I'll get into that a little bit
Cause,
later.
and I don't know if this isn't, but like the choice to have like the second death, like it's like a young woman and then a kid.
Hmm. Yeah, that was the sequence of events.
Yeah,
So,
like for a kid to be the next one to die is just like, oof.
yeah.
Like
Um,
this is serious. And this shark is not like discriminating, right? Oh, I'll leave women and children alone.
oh,
It's
exactly.
a
Or
shark.
or if it's, yeah, if they're under 18,
Right.
hmm.
Okay. I see some legs kicking.
Yeah. And,
That's something for me.
and
Um,
then during the movie, we sort of get it. We get a little bit of lesson about how supposedly how sharks function and so on,
Mhm,
about how they
mhm.
detect prey and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah, so this is when I think they start to take it more seriously, but still this is when they're like, okay, people are putting out like bounty on the shark basically. Brody's like, we're gonna close the beach, and the mayor's like, oh, just for a day though.
yeah, yeah,
And Brody's like, what? A
yeah.
day?
I didn't agree to that. Yeah,
No.
yeah,
And so this is, everybody in the town trying to go catch the shark. They also bring in, this is when we meet Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, who is from the Oceanographic Institute. So
yeah.
he's who we learn all the
From the
shark facts.
mainland,
Yes.
the big whiz science kid.
Yes. The like rich academic
Yeah,
guy, like little trust fund baby who just gets to like have fun and chase sharks for his life. But he gives us all the shark facts. So he looks at like the first girl's body and he's like, yeah, this was not a boat. This was obviously a shark. And it was a big shark.
well, and I think you get the idea that I remember the scene where he says, let's go look at the remains, and when they pull out this basket, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a laundry hamper,
Yeah.
maybe
Like
the size of that. And
pieces.
yeah, and and then and even he's like, this is all that's left, this is it, this,
Mm-hmm.
this is, and then he starts looking, and you can tell that he's like, whoa, this is, and he starts
Mm.
describing the physicality of the attack.
Yeah. Exactly. And he says like all those kicking legs, like that's what the shark is looking for,
Hmm.
right? So like you are like serving these people on a platter to this hungry shark. If there's no food supply, it will leave,
Right, it'll go somewhere else and move
but you
on.
keep giving it food supply. Um, the fishermen catch a shark and
And
everybody's very
and
excited.
it's a good sized
It's
shark.
a good
That
sized shark,
it is.
but
And
Hooper's like, isn't this is not the shark? It's
yeah,
not big enough.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bite radius. He's like
Yeah.
measuring the shark with his tape measure, and
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, 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 this you caught
Yeah.
a shark, not the shark.
Mm-hmm. I also think this around this part is when the mom of the little boy comes
Hmm.
and slaps Brody because she's like, you knew there was a shark and you still like let us all swim. Like,
Hmm.
and now my son is dead.
And
And my son is dead. Like, and I wanted to be like, it was the mayor. It wasn't Brody. He wanted to close the beach. It was the mayor.
the mayor, who, by the way, has a great collection of sport coats.
Oh
Just want.
yes. He's giving very like vineyard vines like
Hmm.
that
Oh yeah,
with
especially like the
the
one with all the little anchors
with
on
the
it.
anchors. Yes, the
Yeah.
embroidery like seersucker.
Mm-hmm.
He's very like New England beach town
Beachy. Yep.
vibe.
Yep.
Hmm.
Hmm.
For
So,
sure. And he's also he's the guy who plays Mr. Robinson in The Graduate.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's also Big Daddy, Blanche's dad on Golden Girls, or like a young, maybe even when they do
Oh, is
flashbacks.
he?
But
Okay.
he plays Big Daddy on Blanche Devereaux's dad in some
Okay.
iteration. But yeah. Anyways, because I was like, I know that face. It
Hmm.
was mostly from Mr. Robinson, but anyways, they don't want Hooper wants to cut the shark open because he's like, okay, sharks digest really slowly. So if this is the shark, we'll see like pieces of this little boy.
Right.
And they were
And
like, no, 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 don't do that in front of everybody. You can't do that. So after after some drinking, that scene was funny when Hooper brings Brody some wine and he pours his wife and Hooper like a normal glass of wine and fills an entire like water glass
water
to the
glass
top
of
with
his.
wine. And
And
then
and
they're like,
and he
okay,
hasn't eaten. You can tell because Brody
right.
comes, or Hooper comes in, and he goes, "Is anybody eating this?" And it's like
And
his
he starts
plate.
eating off his plate. Yeah. And
And
then he's like, all right, well, let's go cut open a shark.
shark. Let's have
So
another drink and let's go cut
cut
open that
open a
shark.
shark. And unsurprisingly, Hooper was correct. It's not the shark. He was like, it probably came from the Gulf Stream. And then boom, there's a Louisiana license plate in its belly.
And Brody says, "Did it eat a car?" And
Right. And also, obviously, it smells just like rank because even
oh,
Hooper, who's like, this is his thing, is sharks. He's like,
uh,
like covering his nose and mouth and just
and
like breathing out of his mouth to
no,
talk.
and I thought to myself, I wrote down, wouldn't you have like put on like a raincoat or something if you were going to cut open a shark instead of doing it in your jeans and your shirt that you just
Right?
ruined? Because you know you're never going to get that out. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, no amount of Tide is going to take that smell out.
Yeah.
So, and that is a pretty gross scene, and you know, you don't see it. Thank goodness they don't show it from the other perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's from the back of the shark, so you don't actually see him cut anything. You know, but all this fluid, it looks like milk runs out. I
Yeah.
guess that's the digestive juices.
I guess. Well, it's probably got like mixture of like ocean water and like,
Yeah, and you know, and you know, there's several hunks of fish and you
mm-hmm.
know other things and stuff, and
Oh,
then
that smells so nasty. Actually,
oh,
you know what? We dissected like a small one, like a dogfish, like a small shark when I took
really,
zoology in high school, and it smelled very bad. It made
really.
the whole science wing smell bad. And then like it was like first period. I had to go about the rest of
Whose
my day.
whose bright idea was it to cut open a dog shark? That was just part of the
It was part
curriculum?
of it. I mean, they're small.
Even still, it's like,
We dissected lots of things.
okay. I mean, I've dissected a frog, but never we didn't
We did a
dissect a
frog when I was in
shark.
middle school. This was zoology. We were
Oh,
high school
okay.
zoology. We were at a high level.
Evidently,
That's
yeah.
also the place that I watched Jurassic Park for the first time. So Mr. Reeser was just going rogue.
Dinosaurs are
Um,
real.
yeah. So the other two things that I noticed, one, when the fishermen catch the shark and they don't know what sharks are, like what kind of sharks are. They're like, "What is this? This kind of shark?" And Hooper goes, "It's a tiger shark." And one of them goes, "Oh, what?"
Ooh.
That part made me laugh because they just like, everybody else is just like, "Look at this shark." And he's like, there's like kinds of sharks. Um, and then before Hooper comes over to Brody's house, I thought it was very sweet. Brody is sitting with the little son, the littlest one, and he just keeps copying him.
His mannerisms and
Yeah,
yeah,
like Brody's
that's
like resting his head in his hand, and the little boy's doing that, and like folding his hands, and the little boy does
and
that.
holding his hand and he's both of
Hmm.
his head in both of his hands, and then yeah,
Yeah.
the little boy.
And then Brody's like, "Give us a kiss," and the kid's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I need one." That was very sweet. Um, but
Now, if I could interject one thing, I would say this is part in the movie. You see a little bit of it, and they don't, and they took the storyline out, but there's a little bit of flirtation going on between Hooper and Brody's wife. In the
yeah.
book, she sleeps with him.
Oh, dear. Because I was gonna say I did right when she said, "My husband tells me you're in sharks."
Yeah.
Um,
So, but
they
yeah,
have a little giggle, but oh,
yeah. In the
well,
book,
that's
there's a whole yeah, that's a full fling affair,
oh gosh. Well, that makes their time on the Orca even more tense.
and that's the reason they said they took it out of the movie because they felt it would interfere with the bonding or whatever of the guys
Yeah.
on, because well, although in the book Brody doesn't find out about it until afterwards,
Mm.
so he doesn't know while they're on board the boat, but
They
yeah,
would have been like, "I should have let the shark eat you then."
so well, yeah, so she's very dissatisfied with him moving to Amity. She misses New York and the big lights and stuff, and then she's
Yeah.
mad at Brody for dragging her off to this desolate island. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
so that's one of
And that
the
makes sense. And it's funny
shows.
too because in this movie, he in around this time, this is when he says like, "Oh, well, in New York, there's like so much crime, you feel like you can't like do anything." And I'm like, "And what are you doing here?
Yeah, uh-huh, yeah,
There's a shark eating people and you have no power. All
yeah,
people want to do is like want you
yeah.
to like put a cone in front of their house so people can't park there."
Exactly. Yeah. Or tell the kids to quit move just bumming around or shoplifting out of your store. So
Right. Right.
so
But
anyway,
then
so I'm
yeah.
sorry. So then
So they
so
cut the
they
shark open, they know it's not that. They go out in a boat to look around. And
so once again though, can I and there's a so
mhm,
this part of the movie, two things. Well, Brody said, he goes, I'm not drunk enough to go out on the water. He goes, yeah, you
yeah.
are. And then Hooper's got one hell of a boat. Now, because I mean, this is like, you've seen some boats, when these guys were out, looking for the shark, and nobody had a boat that looked like that.
No.
So,
And I think this is what Brody's like, "Are you rich?" And he's like, "Me or my family?"
yeah,
Like, I guess both. Like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Oh no, I paid for most of this myself. Cameras, lights, the whole 9 yards. And then I mean, you just look at it, and it just, it's probably $100,000 boat back in 1975, which would be about $1 million these
Yeah.
days.
He has
So
an entire shark cage,
yeah, yeah, he's got all the
like
bells and whistles
the
and the
scuba
toys.
equipment, all of that. So they find this other guy, Ben Gardner, his boat. He's like a guy in town. His boat is floating out there all banged up. He's like, "Oh, let's go look." Uh, Hooper hops in his scuba gear and he finds a ginormous shark tooth. So he's like, "Yeah, this is a great white. This is a
Mm-hmm.
big ass shark." And just as he's making his discovery, the severed head of Ben Gardner pops up in front of him and startles him. He drops the tooth, he drops his knife and his light, and he comes up and he's like,
Yeah, you think he's going to have a gas attack? So
yeah,
good, and that was the good work by whoever the fixed up, rigged up the head. It's got one of the eyes is hanging out.
yeah,
And it's pretty gruesome.
it was gruesome. That's a word that I used a lot in my notes.
Hmm.
Gruesome. I think
Yeah,
that's a good descriptor for a lot of this. But the problem is now Hooper and Brody tell the mayor, like, no, it's definitely a great white, but Hooper doesn't have the tooth. He doesn't have any proof.
right.
The mayor's like, well,
Yeah.
nope.
Did you, Birdie? Did you see the tooth? Well, no, but and, well, without a tooth, we're not going to, shut down the beaches and then everybody be on
Right.
welfare for the winter.
Yeah. And I think this scene is a perfect illustration of the priorities because they're standing in front of the Amity billboard on which someone has drawn like a shark fin in the water, like coming at the happy swimming person.
And she's
And
going,
and
help.
and she's running, yeah, help. And he's like, I want whoever did that arrested. And it's like, okay, we don't care about the actual shark, but we don't
Right.
want anyone to say there's a shark.
Yeah, I wrote revenue over safety.
For
So
sure, for
yeah.
sure. Honestly, like this whole situation, it does, I feel like it's like it does speak to like a more general theme. Like it feels the way that like during COVID when there were some people who were like, "Oh no, like go to stores,
Hmm. Yeah.
do whatever. Don't
Hmm.
worry about it."
Right. You'll be
And then like
fine.
people died. It's like it's very that, like same
Very that.
concept of like, well, we need to make some money and that's the most important thing. So some people can die and it's fine. That's basically the mayor's vibe here.
Did you get the idea or the impression I did when, and I couldn't remember when I first watched the movie, like when the tourists start coming into town, it's like they're invading it. It's like these huge ships, these
Yeah, just like
ferries coming in, and
hordes of
I know,
people.
it's like, where are they going to put all these people? This is
I
like a one
know.
horse town, and
Yeah.
I keep thinking maybe they might have overplayed that a little bit about how many people actually come to visit Amity. So,
Yeah, yeah. I
so
mean, I guess it was for effect.
well,
But
it worked.
it
So
yeah, and I mean, and then I think it's everybody's at the beach. They're also trying to very closely like patrol, right? So there's all the cops and
right,
Hooper and everybody are out in boats
and they've got a
looking out. They got a
helicopter.
helicopter. Brody's on the beach with walkie-talkies. He tells his son, he's like, please go swim. If you are gonna like get in your boat, just do it in the pond and not in the ocean.
Right.
It'll be safer. Or so we thought. Um,
More to come.
yes. So it is just like, and also even like before this, like Brody and Hooper are like calling everybody they know to come
Yeah,
help like
help out.
patrol
Yeah,
this.
we need men with guns. We need boats. We need deputies. We need people. So
Yeah. And it's the same, we get the same like view of like just legs underwater. And it's just like, we know something is going to happen. We're just waiting for it to happen. And then we see a fin and people start freaking out. They clear the beach. The lifeguard is blowing the whistle. And Brody's like, stop blowing the whistle because it's just like a stampede. They're like running over people. and then it's a kid with a fake fin on. Like the boats all swarm.
Right.
They
Yeah.
all have guns up ready to like shoot this shark, and it's just a kid.
With two,
Yeah, two
actually.
kids, yes.
And I'm assuming I don't know if they're brothers, but I love the one he goes, he made me do it. It's like the first words out of his mouth is, don't shoot me. It's he made me do it. It's
Yeah,
so typical of
yes.
little boys. So,
Yeah. But the real shark uh uses this sleight of hand to sneak into the pond, which is connected to an estuary. And I was looking actually, and the estuaries are dangerous. That is a shark area. I
oh,
was reading an article because I was like, let me see how you really like avoid sharks. And estuaries are,
oh, I didn't know
like
that.
where like larger bodies of, and smaller bodies of
Uh,
water meet, are a
me,
more dangerous spot to be in.
I didn't
So
know that.
just so
Okay.
people know,
All right.
shark safety.
The more you know.
So, yes, this girl is standing on the rocks kind of between the ocean and the pond. And she's like, there it is. It's the shark. She's screaming, and everybody goes. And she said, it's going into the pond.
And
So, Brody and Mrs. Brody are like, oh shit. Michael is in the
Michael's in the
pond.
pond, right, with his buddies.
Yeah. And the shark is coming. And there's like one other guy in a boat. And it like knocks over the boat and it just grabs the guy, and again you just see him kind of like bobbing up and down and screaming, and then his leg floats away because the shark bit off his leg, and thankfully it doesn't get Michael. Well,
Right.
Michael's in the water, like his boat
But
falls over, he's in the water.
and I think from the perspective it shows, like Michael's looking, I think the shark is like probably a foot away from him as
Yeah,
it moves off. And
yeah,
so and
and he watches this dude get
right, get eaten.
straight up eaten. Yeah,
Yeah. And
and he's fully in shock, like he's
mhm.
alive, he's physically intact, but is like catatonic. Which, like, if you were like 10 and just watched, you just almost got eaten by a shark and watched an adult man get eaten by a shark in front of you, you would also be
Pretty much. Yeah.
catatonic.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
Yeah. He
I
was
I
going to
would have
get
had a heart
coffee.
attack.
He was going to get coffee ice cream though. So that was a good choice. So because
Yeah.
his mom asked him, what kind
Yeah.
of ice cream? Coffee. So
Yeah. So, and I think this again, it just makes things like a little bit more personal.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now it.
Brody was already mad at the mayor, right? He
Sure.
was like for dismissing everyone's safety. And now, they're in the hospital. And the mayor comes up to him and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And the mayor's like, my kids were in the water too.
Hmm.
And Brody's like, okay, but like my kid like almost got eaten by the shark.
Right. Yeah. Dude.
And you made this decision. So he's like, here's what you're going to do. Backing up, we skipped this part. But earlier, when they put the
Oh.
bounty on the shark, this
Oh.
old drunk dude who no one takes super seriously, at least it seemed, Quint, is like, you give me $10,000, I'll get that shark. Because he was like, originally it was $3,000, and he's like,
What? Yeah. I'll find him for 3,
I'll
but I'll
find him
kill
for
him for
3, but I'll
10.
kill him for 10. I'll
And
catch him and kill him for 10.
he said, he
So
goes, you all know me. You all know what I
yeah,
do for a living. And then evidently that's what he does. He
yeah,
catches sharks, or he kills
yeah.
sharks.
So at this point, now that it has come way too close to home for Brody, he's like, so you're gonna write a check to Quint, and he's gonna catch the shark.
Right.
Okay. The end.
and,
Like,
and
that's
and
what's happening.
and the mayor's just like, he's okay. And he you can see him. He's like, he gives him, he puts a pen in his hand and he just signs that voucher or whatever. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And I mean, that whole beach scene too, no one even wanted to get in the water because they knew that there was a shark. And the mayor like forced people in.
but he strong armed people into going into the water. And it was like the civic leaders, how come you're not in the water? Well,
Yeah.
and he got, and of course the mayor doesn't go into the water. Does he's wearing,
Oh no.
his
He's in
spiffy
this
sport coat and tie,
right.
and
Not
that.
really beachwear, sir.
No, I mean, so yeah, it's like, dude, if you feel that strongly, how about you go into the water? That's what I would have said. But of course, they kowtow to the mayor, and subsequently, yeah, you're right. Then the poor guy in the little boat in the pond gets made into mincemeat.
But yeah, so this is, I think, when sort of we kick into like a new phase of the movie.
Hmm.
So it's like the shark's been hunting us, and
And
now we're
yeah,
hunting the shark. So they hire Quint, and Quint also seems he's like, I'm going alone.
yeah,
Seems to
yeah.
be his vibe. But then
He's got his buddy or his mate or whatever, the guy that never
yeah,
says anything,
yeah.
wearing
Well, because
that
and then
goofy
he has
hat.
his little like I don't know if this is like his house, his boathouse or whatever. It's just like a shack full of shark mouth bones.
Right. Jaws,
Yeah, full of
shark
jaws.
jaws. Yeah. And
That's
he's,
also that's what mouth bones are called, I guess.
yeah,
Jaws.
sorry. So,
That's a good
but
that
yeah,
those are words.
I mean, and they're all different sizes and stuff and different
Yeah.
shapes. And they keep talking about, oh, it's rare for sharks to be around this area. And I wanted to say, well, where in the hell did Quint get all these shark? Where did he catch all these sharks at?
That's true. That's a
Did he
good
just pack them up from wherever he was before and then brought them here when he moved? I don't know.
yeah. But it is rare, I think, because it's too cold up there. That's also my thought at the beginning of the movie. I was like, I know that water is cold as hell.
Well, with global warming nowadays, though.
Well, this was 1975. It wasn't that warm.
Well, yeah,
We didn't have as many
maybe the
greenhouse
Gulf
gases
Stream, maybe
yet.
the Gulf Stream diverted. I don't know.
Maybe it
So
was like El Nino over there or
there
something.
you
But
go.
I
Yeah.
was like,
So
the water's cold in Ocean City, Maryland.
well, true.
If
Yeah.
in Massachusetts, ooh, no, thank you. But anyways, Hooper and Brody are like, well, we're going. So this is
Well,
what's happening.
Brody is anyway. He says, look,
Yeah.
I gotta be, there to make sure this gets done or whatever. He's
Mhm.
representing the town, I guess, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Certainly, if he had a choice not to go, he would not. But he's like, I have to like lay eyes on this, right? Because that
Right.
was the issue
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It's my duty to like protect the people, so like I have to be part of this, even though he like hates it. And Hooper is just interested, I think. He's like,
We
this is the biggest shark I've ever heard of. Like,
he,
obviously, I want to go.
Well, because earlier he said he had to leave because he was going to go on an 18-month long expedition to look for sharks. And then he
Hmm.
was telling them, hey, look, I don't need to go away. I've got a great white right here.
Yeah,
I can look at this one and find this one. And so he stays.
exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Hooper's bringing his shark cage, and Quint is like, "That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You trying to be a shark appetizer?" That's his vibe. And then, it's the morning, they're loading the boat. Brody's wife is like very worried for him. He's like, "Tell the kids I've gone fishing."
Right.
That
Yeah.
was a funny, but it is truly, it's like they're going off to war. Like
Oh,
they do, like he clearly like there is an expectation that he's not necessarily going to come back. I think Quint feels like he's going to come back because he's like, this is my thing, whatever.
oh yeah.
But
I
like
can
Brody's
handle this.
vibe is like,
Mm,
this is the
yep.
last time I'm gonna see you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell the kids I love them.
Yeah.
Oh, and
And then
he told her something too about like something about the house or something. Like if something goes wrong with it, it do something. It was one of the appliances or
oh
something.
yeah.
Yeah, one of those. It's one of those dad things. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, by the
Yeah.
way, if you, yeah,
You
if
got to
you,
jiggle the handle and
yeah, yeah.
that kind
So
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah. So they depart. It is funny too because they're all just like, Hooper and Quint are like, this is their thing. And Brody's there, like in his life vest, like hating it, hating it. Which, as a
scared to
person
death.
who's afraid of drowning, I like really, I'm not averse to a boat as much as Hooper is, but like drowning is a fear. So I'm like,
Oh,
I empathize with him a touch. Like I'm not intellectually like afraid of sharks. I don't think about sharks that much, but like drowning, you can always drown.
no, oh yeah. So
The water is so big.
and let's face it, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, all three of you out there in our audience,
Mhm.
uh, uh, Quint's boat is not exactly confidence inspiring.
No, it is
It
not Hooper's boat.
it needs some
Hooper's
help.
boat was top of the
Ex-
line.
exactly. Yeah,
Quint's boat,
Quint's looks like it was limping on one leg and
yeah.
the other one was on a banana peel.
If it
So
was a car, you'd call it like a hoopty. Like it was not.
mm-hmm. Yep,
It's
yep,
not in the best of
yeah.
shape.
No, not at all. So
So the orca
sort of like
departs.
Quint.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there's clearly, I love this too, because it's just like three like very different guys. The sort of Hooper and Quint are having their sort of like manliness competition. They're
Mm,
doing their like book smart versus street smart like tension.
right.
And meanwhile, like Brody's like, I just want to live. Like,
Yeah, Brody says,
can
"I
we
just
just
wanna
get to the
get
shark and
back."
go home?
Just yeah, just do this. Just do your thing. Uh,
Hmm. Yes. And we get a little Chekhov's gun here. Because Brody, do you know what I mean when I say Chekhov's gun?
yeah,
So for
go
people
ahead.
who are not familiar with this, Chekhov's gun, it comes from the Russian playwright Anton Chekhov, who basically says, and I'm not like reciting this word for word, but like if you show me a gun in act one, it has to be used to shoot somebody by the end of the play. Right. So
Right. So
Brody's like chumming the water, he's like moving around, and he accidentally knocks over all these oxygen tanks. And Hooper's like, dude, like those will blow up. Like, be
you,
careful.
if you're not, yeah,
If you're not careful, those will like explode. So just put a
Mm,
pin in that.
got it.
Um, you know, the shark is around, right? The line's unspooling. Basically, Quint's usual way that he deals with it is he'll harpoon it and tie it to like a floating barrel. And the shark typically can't then go
Dive.
under.
Right. Can't go
So
deep.
he can get it easily because it's near the surface. But this shark is big. So it's like one barrel still going under. Two barrels still going under. Three barrels. Certainly it can't go under, but it can.
And it goes fast.
Yes. It is big and it's fast. And it does at some point begin to feel personal. Like this shark is no longer just looking for food. This
It,
shark is like, okay, you keep shooting me.
it,
You keep messing with me. And now I'm coming for you.
and while I was rewatching the movie, I'm sorry. So I just, when they're, after they've been out on the water all day and then the shark got away and they
Mm-hmm.
thought they hooked it, they did. And Brody Hooper said, "No, you don't have a shark." And then turns out, yeah, they probably did because it bit through the piano wire. So,
Yeah.
but they're
Yes.
sitting there, doing their little thing, and we'll go back a little bit about that,
Mhm.
the scene with Brody and
Yeah.
with Hooper and Quint. But yeah, the shark attacks the boat,
Yes.
and I said to Denise, I said, now you get the feeling that, yeah, it's personal.
That's exactly what I wrote in my notes. I was like, this
The
feels
shark's
personal.
pissed. Yeah, it's like,
Yes.
yeah, you put some holes in me. Guess what?
Yeah. And I mean, we get the iconic that scene is with the iconic line. I think it is like
Oh my God.
because Brody's at the back of the boat chumming the water, right? And everybody's arguing, and he looks away from the water, and like we're looking at Brody's face, and right behind him is the shark. And then he's like, "Oh God!" And then he goes into where Quint is, and that's when he says,
You're going to need a bigger
"You're
boat.
gonna need a bigger boat," which is like
And
again,
and just deadpan. It's like, and you could, and Quint just looks at him and it's like, what? And then he goes out there and then that's when, the scene starts where,
yeah. And this is really like the first time that we like see the shark. Like we've
and
seen the fin,
yeah,
but
and
we're seeing like the mouth.
mouth and the head.
Yeah.
So, and the reason being the sharks didn't work.
Yeah. The
So
mechanical sharks did not work.
Spielberg had to improvise and had to change the way he shot with the movie, and he said that was the reason why, was because
Yeah.
the
Bruce.
sharks malfunctioned. They had three of them, I think he said,
Hmm.
and for different scenes, and because they were shooting in ocean water, evidently the salt and stuff
The
got
salt
clumped,
water, it messes up
messed
the
up the
mechanical
gearing and
stuff.
stuff. Yeah, so, and
I've
the
learned that
pneumatic.
from watching Below Deck. Because
Oh,
when they get salt water in the engine, it really messes the things
messes
up.
it up.
And
So
that happens on this boat too. The salt
yeah,
water gets in the engine. But yeah. But I think it like it worked out. Because
it was better.
the
They
suspense,
Mhm.
the not seeing it.
Exactly. Just the implied,
Yeah.
and throughout the movie, especially at the very beginning, the first
Hmm.
attack, the second attack, you don't even really see the shark.
Yeah.
If you freeze it, you think you do,
You
but
get
it's
like a
really,
glimpse maybe.
yeah.
Like mostly you just see the fin, which like
Hmm.
again, as they showed by the kid prankster kids is easy to replicate. But
Exactly.
yeah, so
And
this is really the first time that we're seeing the
mhm.
shark.
and,
And
and
it's like
how big it
it's
is.
a big shark. That's a big shark. That's a big old fish. So yeah, and like this is when it's like, okay, it's on. This shark
Yeah.
is like trained on you now. Its
Uh-huh.
big, scary, dead black eyes are on you. It knows you're after it, and now it's after you.
It's after, as I was gonna say now, and I think when you said that you talked about when they go out on the boat and they're going after it, the tone changes from the shark hunting to them hunting the shark. Now it's turned again,
It's
don't you
back
think?
again.
So it's the
Yes.
shark is now hunting them. Yeah, and well, it's found them. But
Yeah.
and can we go back though to the scene in the galley?
Oh yeah, I think that's next. So that you're
Yeah,
gonna need
yeah.
a bigger
So
boat, and then
before,
next.
yeah, so they're eating, and they're getting drunk, and then they start bragging about their scars. Well, not
Mhm.
Brody, but you
Yeah,
know,
singing the Quint loves the sea shanty. He's singing all of his songs.
uh-huh, yeah.
Farewell and adieu, you fair Spanish ladies.
And making, inappropriate toasts,
Yes, you
but
know.
so they talk about their scars, him and Hooper, how they did this, did that, and then they almost seem to then think you think, oh, we'll drink to our legs because they both have scars on their legs and stuff.
Hmm.
And Brody asked Quint the question, "What's that on your arm?"
Hmm.
Oh, that was a tattoo, but I had it removed. And then Hooper starts making fun. Oh, let me guess, mother.
Hmm.
And then he goes, "That was the USS Indianapolis." And then you see Hooper's face change, and then Brody asks, "Well, what about that?" And Hooper knows the story, but Quint tells the story. So, and then
Hmm.
you tell it because I'm sure you can tell it a lot more succinctly than I can.
So the USS Indianapolis. So this is World War II. Quint's on the USS Indianapolis in the Pacific Theater. This is the boat that delivers the bomb to be dropped on Hiroshima. But a Japanese torpedo hits them and the boat goes down. He says the whole vessel goes down in 12 minutes.
Mhm.
And it starts with 1,100 men. They're floating in the water, they're waiting for help. But the mission was so secret that they can't call, they haven't been able to call for help. No one knows that they're there
Mhm.
to look for them. And then the sharks come. And I think he said at first, they're sort of just like around.
Mhm.
And then
Just
they kind of
circling.
get closer and closer. And he talks about one guy who he saw, they're wearing life vests when you
Mhm.
evacuate. And he sees the guy and he's kind of bobbing up and down.
And
And it's because the bottom half of him had been bitten off. And Quinn says, like, he's like, I'm never wearing a life vest, like, after that.
yeah.
But the big thing is 1,100 men went into the water, 316 came out. The sharks got the rest. So almost 800 people eaten by
Yeah.
sharks. And this is like, yeah, June 29th, 1945. So this is like,
But we delivered the bomb,
yes, but they delivered the bomb. So yeah,
So
this is like my social work brain. I was just like, trauma.
well,
Um,
it sort of explains why Quint doesn't like sharks.
yeah,
You
it's like,
know,
okay. I get the
hmm
shark
yeah,
shark gripe
the
now.
right, yeah, the shark
We're
gripe. I like that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like we're seeking revenge. We're on a
Hmm.
lifelong revenge mission.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote trauma in big capital letters. It's like, oh,
You think?
terrifying,
Oh yeah.
terrifying. Um,
Quint, do you have PTSD?
yeah, and
Maybe.
because he talked about even when they were getting rescued, he was like worried to the point that he was like
Hmm.
fully out of the water because it's
Right.
like the sharks are still there.
Yeah. He said that was the time he was most afraid when
Yeah.
waiting for his turn to get out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. So very scary
scary.
story. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
imagine watching 800 people get eaten by sharks. So yeah, very scary. And then
Shark
the
starts
shark,
busting up the
yeah, the
boat.
shark starts busting into the boat. Like the lights go out, the little lantern falls over, there's a fire. It's just like
Yeah.
haywire. Quint is trying to shoot it, and it's like you saw how big that shark was, man. I don't know what you think is gonna
I know
happen.
exactly. He's got an
He's
old
shooting with like
M1 from World War II, an old M1
right.
rifle, and he's gonna thinks he's gonna shoot that damn 25 foot. What did they say it weighed 3,000 pounds?
3 tons.
3 tons, yeah, 6,000 pound shark. Yeah. Duh.
Like, come on, man. You're just like scratching it. You're just
Right.
pissing it off more.
Exactly. Yeah. You, you might as well just shoot yourself at this point.
Um, I think in the morning. I think this might be like in
Right, it
daylight.
goes on all night because
Yeah.
the shark goes away, I guess, for a while,
And it comes back. And
and they're
Brody's
trying
like,
to
we
get
need
the
to call for help. But Quint is on his shark revenge mission. He's like, no, I am killing this damn shark. And he destroys the radio so Brody can't call for help because he wants to kill the shark.
shades of Captain Ahab.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. He is Captain Ahab. This is his white whale.
Don't you think a lot of, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost exactly like that when it comes down to this. It's yeah, just him against the fish,
And
the
he's like,
monster.
he's lost all like
Oh,
rationality about it, right?
yeah,
It's not like
perspective and
here's how we like approach killing the shark, like in a practical way. He's like, I'm gonna kill the shark, he's like, he's losing it. I actually wrote he's on his Captain Ahab shit in
oh,
my
there you
notes.
go. Good point.
He's looking for revenge for the USS Indianapolis.
Yes.
So again, they harpoon the shark, then they're trying to chase it. Brody's trying to shoot it with a pistol. I'm like, again, what do you think is, you might as well get a BB gun, man. Like, what are you doing? Then they tie the shark, like the lines that are attached to the shark, they tie it to the back of the boat and they're going to try to pull it into shallower waters where they can kill it.
Right.
But the shark is too big. It pulls the cleats off the boat. It's like eating through the line.
Yeah, you could see it like it's working its way up into the back of the boat. It's sort of like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just
because
sort
then Quint tries to harpoon it again with like, and then it's just pulling the boat.
right.
So then it's pulling the boat down also. So now the boat's taking on water.
And it's flowing right into the engine
Yes.
compartment, as you talked about salt water.
Mm-hmm.
Salt water and the engines evidently don't mix.
No, it like corrodes. It has a corrosive element. So, but yeah, then, this is when he hits him with the third barrel. He's like, he can't go under with 3 barrels. Yes, it can. Quint, at what point do you realize this shark is on a level you have never seen before, sir? He's still trying to lead the shark to shallow waters, even though the boat is barely functioning.
I mean, you see smoke pouring out of the back of
It is
the
straight
engine.
up falling apart. And then the shark's getting away. And this is when Quint goes for the life vest, and you're like, oh no, is Quint going to put on a life vest? No, he's not. He gives them to Hooper and Brody. He's like, okay, the
Yes.
boat's about to go down.
Yeah.
But you guys
might.
get the life vests. I'm not
Yeah.
wearing them.
Yep. I'm never putting one on.
And at this point, this is how you know he's desperate too, because he's like, all right, Hooper's going to go in the cage.
Yeah, he says, "What have you? Do you have something in there that can kill that shark?"
Yeah. And so Hooper has strychnine and like a needle, but it can't get through the shark's skin because they have like thick skin. So he has to go under and try to get it in the mouth, which again seems terrifying and ill-advised. And it is. Because he goes in the water, we hear the music, and you're kind of like, he's under there for a minute, like, okay, where is it coming from? And it just comes like straight at him.
Behind him though, like
Oh
he's
yeah.
like, yeah, remember it's like
He's
he's
like
not
whip
even,
around.
yeah, and then clangs the
Yeah.
cage.
He drops his little harpoon.
Of course
He's
he
like,
does.
of course, he drops everything. He's trying to
He
get
dropped the
it.
tooth, he dropped his knife, he dropped the flashlight, he dropped the spear.
Everything. Listen, would I also do that? Yes, but maybe I would have thought ahead and get like a little string to tie it to your hand or something.
It's called a lanyard, a tether.
Exactly.
Yeah, get the
You know
tether.
how like that's why when people, wear like sunglasses on boats, they wear them with the strap.
Exactly.
Just get a little strap.
That's why hats
some
have
tape.
little cords on them.
You all have so much like rope and string on there. You couldn't figure that out. Anyways, the shark is just coming at this cage and it's making a very big hole that's soon going to be a Matt Hooper size hole and he's gonna eat him. But he manages to like escape out the bottom and he swims away and like hides behind some coral. Which actually I read in the article. They said it's a good idea if like there's coral by you to like get like back up to it. So then at least
Really?
like the shark can't get behind you then.
Oh,
So
that's
you
I
kind of
never.
keep the shark in front of you. At least then you like know which way to go, kind of thing. So there's another
Okay,
tip for you from an article I read on CNN.com about shark safety.
very
Because
good.
I was well,
Okay.
I found it because I Googled, can you really punch a shark in the nose? And they were basically like, well, like I guess you can, but also the mouth is right there too. So maybe not.
Oh yeah, might not be a good idea.
Yeah, they
Um,
said punch it in the gills, punch it in the gills because they're sensitive and that'll throw it
oh,
off.
oh,
So
okay.
the
All
gill
right.
slits on the side of the head. There you go. Another free tip for everybody. Anyways, they think Hooper's dead. They pull up the cage. Hooper's not in it, and it's clearly
Well, I
destroyed.
was going to, yeah, in the meantime, the shark's going full tilt boogie on this cage. It's like,
Yeah.
just, and by the way, I don't know if you read it. That is a real shark. It's just a smaller cage. They filmed that.
Oh wow.
Uh, and they use that film footage because spoiler in the book, Hooper dies.
Well,
Just to
you
let you
wouldn't
know,
be surprised.
because
So
part of it
only
was supposedly revenge for sleeping with Brody's wife. I
oh
mean, it
well,
was sort of like, you
that's his
know,
like karmic retribution.
yeah, when they came back, it was just Brody that came back, and she goes, what happened to Matt? Oh, well, he was lunch, and oh, and it comes out, she slept with him. So, yeah.
Well, so then he was
Anyway,
like, good riddance.
exactly, yeah. So anyway, so
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
they
So
pull up the
so
cage and Hooper's not in it. So Quentin Brody assume that he's dead, which
the
I think is a
worst.
fair assumption
Hey,
because that's a big shark that
so
was
far,
very relentless.
no one's won yet. So
Correct.
so far, Shark 3, everybody else 0.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a scary scene because even like Hooper's like into sharks and even he was really scared. Like when he was trying to spit on his goggles and he like his mouth is so dry, he was like, oh, no spit.
Got no spit. Yeah.
Yeah, this is also where I put feels personal. Because this shark is like, I'm after you now.
Yeah.
Before I
Yeah.
was just running around eating. Now
Yeah.
I'm coming for you
Yeah.
specifically.
And you were going to stick me with that thing.
Exactly.
So let's see how
So,
you like it.
yes. So now the shark is just eating the boat. It's just biting the
Oh,
back of the
yeah.
boat.
Yeah. And yeah, just crunching.
Yeah. Chomp, 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 chomp on the boat. And then we get the boat is leaning Titanic style.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a slide. And Quint slides. Well, he slides. Brody catches him at first, but the gravity is too strong. They can't hold their grip. It's also like wet, you know.
Yeah, it's
It's a little
slippery. You can see
difficult.
he's got, and I think Quint's got gloves or something, or
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, just
And
yeah,
he slides right down into the well, he tries to avoid going into the shark's mouth. He does fight valiantly. He's kicking him. He's
oh
sort of
gosh,
flailing.
and yelling and
Yeah. He's
just everything that
um
you can think of, but
yeah. If only he was wearing a cross pendant like LL Cool J in Deep Blue
Deep
Sea.
Blue
He could have
Sea.
stabbed it in the eyes with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Quentin didn't think that far ahead, obviously.
Now,
So he ends up, well, his like legs end up in his mouth at first. He like, this is another very gruesome part because the
ooh,
shark is like biting his midsection. There's like blood coming out of his mouth. He's still alive and like
mm-hmm.
yelling. And then he kind of slides the rest of the way in.
So and you talked about, you have a fear of drowning. One of my
Mhm.
biggest fears, and I know it comes from this movie, the fear of being eaten by something else.
Yeah.
I think that has to be, especially if you're still alive.
Yeah,
That has to be a horrible way to die.
for sure.
Just just saying.
Yeah.
So
The good thing is there's not that many things that are like big enough to eat people.
no, like, well, a lion or a
Yeah.
bear,
Well,
or a grizzly bear. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that could like immobilize you. And
Bears probably like most possible,
yeah,
you
well,
know,
in North America,
in North America. But
yeah.
like, I mean, lions even still, like, you don't hear a lot about people getting eaten by lions. Usually it's like someone who's a poacher and then they deserve it.
Well, that's true. So I'll go along with that. That's just heavenly retribution, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. So,
So,
but yeah,
um,
no, it is, this does make it look pretty gruesome because yeah, he's like alive.
oh, I No, and
for a
it,
good portion of it. He's
it,
probably
it,
still alive inside the shark.
at least, well, you kind of hope. I was like sitting there thinking, I'm kind of hoping that, like, at the very last, like, he's dead. Hopefully
Yeah.
he's dead before he
Hopefully it
drags
gets
him
him,
off the
it like
boat.
bites him in the right spot. But
Oh yeah, because
yeah,
it's not good. It's not good.
Brody should have just shot him at that point.
I wondered about that. I wondered, because yeah, just shoot Quint, to put him out of
Yeah,
his misery, because
right.
you're not going to be able to save him. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, not at all. But yeah, Brody, the person who is afraid of water, is all alone on a sinking boat that's being circled by a ginormous, like prehistoric level size shark.
Who's mad?
An angry shark with a
Yeah,
vendetta.
yeah. Because at this point, you figure it's had enough to eat.
Right. It
You
shouldn't be
know,
hungry anymore.
you wouldn't think.
As we learned from Hooper, their digestive systems are slow.
Right. So now it's just out for just it's going to
Now
get
it's
him.
just pissed.
Yeah, it's
This is
personal.
this is shits and giggles for it now.
That's
Like,
right, dude. You're in my turf now.
so yeah, and then like the shark is like in again, it's like in the boat now because Brody's like in the little wheelhouse and the shark is like in there with
it,
it.
it it comes in, yeah, from the other
It comes
side, and
inside,
yeah, and it's like, it's like dragging everything.
flashing around, but
And go ahead.
they still have the oxygen tanks. And Brody, he remembered old Chekhov. He said, "Let me stick this oxygen tank in this shark's mouth. I'm gonna shove it in there."
First, I
Um,
thought maybe he was just like, he just picked up whatever was handy and was like trying to beat the shark, in the head with
yeah.
it. But then, yeah, I thought, oh yeah, maybe oh,
Mhm.
Hooper said these things will blow up.
Yeah, and he also like poked it to make it like he was trying to poke at it, I think, to
Yeah,
make
to
it
make it
like
open its
leak.
mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah,
tried to once it had the thing. I think
yeah,
he was trying to like get it and make it explode that way.
yeah. But yeah,
That he was unsuccessful at that. But then he goes out, he's crawling, he goes out on the crow's nests.
he's
He's
he's like
got the rifle
the
and
the
the crow's
last.
nest, which is like a foot above the water.
That's good, and you could see it like it's slowly going
And it's
down.
like on an angle. It's
Yeah.
not up. If we're at a 45-degree angle, like a
Oh,
foot and a half above the surface of the water. Like
and Bruce is by the way,
the
the
shark,
nickname
yes,
for the shark was
Bruce.
Bruce. For the Bruce is coming at him like, full speed ahead.
And he's shooting and just like he's got the aim of a stormtrooper right now. He's just boom, 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 boom everywhere but the shark. And then and I love this part too. He's trying to get the shark to open its mouth so he can hit the
Yeah.
oxygen tank. He's like, smile, you son of a
It's like,
bitch.
bitch.
And then he finally hits it and it blows up and he's like, ha 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 ha.
Kablooey. I know, it's like, oh, and that,
Yay.
boy, ooh, that. I read how they did that. They packed the thing full of, like, like big chunks of beef and stuff like that, and they actually blew it up
That probably
with a
smelled
with a.
too.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? But yeah, so that scene where the carcass is sinking
Hmm.
down, you see like one of the big pneumatic pipes sticking out, because sharks don't have like big bones that stick out like
No,
that.
sharks don't have bones. Sharks are from the order Chondrichthyes, which means cartilaginous fish.
So yeah, yeah, we're
That's a
the
real fact. That's not me. That's not me talking shit. There's
no,
osteichthyes and chondrichthyes. Osteichthyes are bony fish. Chondrichthyes are
yeah.
cartilaginous fish, like sharks and rays.
So anyway, yeah, so
It blows up. Also, then Hooper pops up. He's like, "Hey,
look,
I was
I'm
alive the whole
alive.
time."
And so, don't you think that, like, when Hooper pops up, like, Brody's like, maybe he's so exhausted by this point that his nerves are just so, like, if something else came up out of the water
I
at
would be like,
that
"Oh
point,
God,"
I would have like turned around and like either
shot
jabbed it
it.
with something or shot it, just kept
Right.
shooting at it. Like,
Been like another one.
yeah, really. Yeah. So it's like, what the fuck is
It's
this?
like
I'm
he's
sorry.
just so spent.
Yeah, because you can tell he's just worn out. Well, who wouldn't be? He
Yeah.
just, yeah. And
Yeah.
then he's treading water, and
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah. But then they find the barrels and float the barrels all the way home.
speaking of which, and it's like, because they're out there kicking. How far out from they
I
you think
know.
they're from shore? Because man, you don't see anything, and it's like,
No.
dude, you're a ways out.
Yeah. Maybe the hope is they'll run into like another boat before they get
I don't know,
before
you
they get
know.
all the way, but that is far.
Yeah, and
Also,
then
like,
you're
what
exhausted.
if there's another shark?
It doesn't have to be a great white. All it has to be is
Right.
because the first one was
Because
a
there was a
tiger.
tiger shark, so we know there's other
Exactly,
sharks around. And like you
exactly.
said, obviously Quint has a whole collection.
So
So presumably there's other sharks and they like the kicking.
don't yeah. I mean, also, don't you wonder, like, when they first went out, so Quint was gonna go by himself and take
Mhm.
his little buddy. Where was the little guy? How come he didn't go out on the boat? I mean, I know it wasn't a big boat, but surely 4 of them could have fit as well as
Yeah.
3. And Quint,
Yeah.
don't you think Quint would have wanted his, like, right-hand guy with him?
Yeah. If this
You
is
know?
especially if this is like your gig, like this is the
Yeah,
thing you do all the
this is the
time.
guy that goes out with you all the other times to kill all the other sharks, like,
Right. I
he
would be like, okay, you can join me, but like
yeah,
doing
you're
this like my way. We're following my
right.
routine.
Yeah,
Brody's
it's
never been on a boat before. He doesn't even know. He almost like tied up Hooper with the rope.
oh god, he almost cut him in half, with,
Yeah.
when the shark took the line,
Hmm.
and
And they were
snagged it.
trying to attach it to the cleats. Like he,
Mhm,
that's dangerous. He would get yelled at on below deck if he did something like that.
there you go,
One
so
time, a guy stepped over the line and it wrapped around his ankle and he got pulled into the water and he had to be rescued.
there you
A crew
go.
member on below deck, and that's on just a yacht for fun. So imagine what could have happened to Hooper.
Exactly.
He would have been eaten by the shark much earlier than we thought he was.
Very
Than we
much
thought he would
so.
have been. But
Um,
but yeah, so it's quite an adventure. I think it really does, even though I think, the shark like looks kind of fake to 2024 eyes. It's still, I think it's like built up so much throughout the
mhm.
movie that once you see it, it's still like, oh my God.
Yeah, because even it's not really towards the end of the movie that you see any prolonged footage of the shark
Hmm.
per se, and yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell. Yeah, it's it just moves from side to side or whatever. Yeah, the special effects for that
Yeah.
time were probably pretty
Hmm.
good, but
The like
now.
face and mouth of it look pretty good though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Look pretty
So
scary.
and especially when it was biting on Quint,
Hmm.
chomping down on him, but and just oh, so and then brings me to one other point in the movie that's different from the book. The shark just dies from bleeding to death in the book.
Oh, because they've
Brody,
they've
they've stabbed it so many
stabbed it so
times,
many
and
times.
then the scene where Brody is like stabbing at it before he shoots it.
Hmm.
That's what he does, like over and over again in the book, and then finally the
Hmm.
shark just bleeds to death. So
Interesting.
yeah, all the from that, and then all the harpoons that they've shot into it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it
It does
is
have a lot of
weak.
holes in it.
Yeah, it's weak at this point, and so it just so slowly sinks. Because
Mm.
if sharks don't move, they drown.
Yeah.
So it stops moving. So, but yeah, that was the other big difference in the book and the movie was how the shark actually died. So
Yeah. I could see for a movie that would be less
yeah,
climactic.
evidently Steven wanted, and I guess the people that were making the movie, they wanted a bigger, more explosive ending.
A big
Yes.
bang.
Ooh, very good, very
Yeah.
good.
Well, this
Um,
movie too, like making it was a mess, right? Because it took too long. They went way over
Way over
budget.
budget. Spielberg said he kept expecting to be fired. Uh,
Yeah.
every time that the studio would call or they would stop, he expected them to get rid of him. That they were going to let him go, but and then
Hmm.
they said it the during the filming of the movie, most of the crew, not the cast, but instead of Jaws, they called it Flaws. So that was the
Well,
nickname for the movie because it was so riddled, they said, with problems,
yeah.
and evidently uh, Robert Shaw was and Richard Dreyfuss did not get along very well with each other in real life, and as
Mm.
much as they were supposed to not to in the movie. And
Yeah.
Shaw
Robert
was
Shaw is Quint, and
yeah,
Richard Dreyfuss, as we said, was Hooper.
Hooper. They said Shaw was during this supposedly during the scene when they filmed about the USS Indianapolis story. Evidently, that the story is that he really was pretty drunk at the time.
I was wondering because also
And
he did not live long beyond. this movie coming
This
out.
movie, no, he was very hard drinker, did a lot of good things. He was in The Sting,
Yes.
you know, and
I wrote a
uh,
list. He was in A Man for All Seasons
mhm,
and From Russia with Love.
yeah, he was the killer, the assassin
Yeah.
in that.
But he died in 1978 and he was only 51.
Yeah,
And this was 1975. This movie came out.
hard charger. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
was not one, did not go quietly into that good night.
Well,
Um,
he listened to Dylan Thomas.
I guess so. Yeah, so it was, and I'm not going to speak or dwell on any of the other sequels or whatever you want to call it. You know, in
Yeah.
this was the one and only, and Spielberg would not. He didn't want anything to do with any of the others. Although he
Yeah.
said he was tempted to do the second one at one
Mm.
point when whoever it was they'd hired to direct quit or left. But then
Mm.
he said no, he was going to walk away. He'd done the one and he had
Yeah.
enough. So
And this is the only one. So Peter Benchley, who wrote the book, he co-wrote the screenplay. And I think
mm-hmm.
he wasn't
No,
involved
he
with
had
any of the
nothing
other
to do
ones
with any of
either.
it because this was a one and done for him. There was no, that was the end of the story. There was no,
Yeah.
you know,
But
continuing.
the other writer, Carl Gottlieb, he
Mm-hmm.
did write the other.
Right.
He wrote
The
two
other.
and three.
Um, and Peter Benchley, by the way, makes a cameo in this.
So was Carl Gottlieb, but I didn't know which one he was. I
Peter
saw him in the
Benchley is
credits
the
though.
Peter Benchley is the reporter, the summer
Okay.
reporter that does it, and
Oh, he's like on the beach.
on the beach, you know,
Hmm.
about, you know, when the tourists are flocking to Amity,
Oh
but
yeah.
the, you know, they've been under the attack of this shark, but you know the
Mhm.
mayor said, oh, you know, we caught a large predator and all that. But anyway, so yeah, he's in.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Um,
But
so
yeah, but the book was based. It's a novel, but he based it. There were real shark attacks, which I think that Brody references in the movie.
mhm.
Shark attacks in 1916 in the Jersey Shore.
In on the Jersey Shore, yeah, and it terrorized the beach evidently, yeah, for several days,
Mm.
so for a while, so and the book was written just a year before the movie came out.
Mm.
Book was written in 74, the movie came out in 75, so
Wow.
uh,
So it was
they
like must
I
have been a
guess
hit.
yeah, it was, you know, a a big blockbuster of a read, and then I get they you know, I guess snatched it up pretty quickly to make a movie out of it. So,
Yeah.
and there
Um,
were a lot of people that were offered or considered for the roles I read, but the producer and Spielberg, they didn't want to go big star. Robert Shaw
mhm.
was probably the one who'd had the most acting credit, although Roy Scheider had been in
The
the
French
movie
Connection.
French Connection. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then
Then he
um,
was in All That Jazz. That's the other thing that I know of him
mm-hmm,
from. He's in All That Jazz, which is the movie that Bob Fosse made about himself.
about himself, yeah. He was also in the Seven Ups. He played cops mostly in a
I
lot
could
of,
see that. He
yeah.
gives that vibe. He gives the cop
Um,
vibe.
and Richard Dreyfuss had turned down the role. He had just made his first movie, Duddy Kravitz, and he said he thought he was going to get, you know, he was going to get bigger roles, and he turned down the role of Hooper. And then the story is that I read that he saw the pre-release of the movie Duddy Kravitz, and he said he thought he was so bad in it he would never get offered another movie after it came out. So he called Spielberg and accepted the offer of this, and then he was going to maybe be in one of the sequels, but then he was doing the Goodbye Girl.
Yeah. And he was in wasn't Spielberg's next movie the Close Encounters?
Close Encounters,
And
and
Richard Dreyfuss is in that.
With Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I know 90s Richard Dreyfuss. I have not seen any of his previous work. I know Mr. Holland's Opus,
Opus,
and
yeah.
this one I forgot about, but when I was looking at his list, Krippendorf's Tribe. Have you ever seen that
Oh
movie?
yeah, I have. Yeah,
When he's like
where they
an
make up that they're
anthropologist and like
yeah,
makes up like a New Guinean like
a new
tribe with his
phony.
kids,
Yeah.
which I was like, this is
Well, he was in
I
What
have to
About Bob?
imagine that has not aged well. Yeah, what about Bob? And that's the one where him and Bill Murray were fighting all the time.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You could, and you and I had mentioned it before because I'd said something about the movie, and I talked about the animosity between him and Robert Shaw, and you said evidently a lot of people didn't get along with Richard
Yeah.
Dreyfuss.
Although
So
the way that it's portrayed, that, you hear the stories from What About Bob, is that it was Bill Murray
yeah,
being the
because I've
problem,
heard
which
those
like
stories
you
about
hear,
him.
so it just
Mm-hmm.
seems like maybe two problem people
Yeah,
clashing in one time. And then again, as I told you recently, if you Google Richard Dreyfuss, I think it was a screening of Jaws in like New York or somewhere with like him talking, and he just like went off on like rants against like women and gay people and like just like racist, just like mess.
liked him in The Goodbye Girl.
Mm,
I always thought he was good in that, and then of course in Close Encounters,
yeah. I
which
liked
is
him in Mr. Holland's Opus. That's a movie
on
on
my
my
list.
list.
So Close Encounters is on my list.
Oh, I've never
So
seen that. The only alien I was into as a kid,
E.T.
E.T.
Uh-huh.
E.T. And even that movie, he's like a little freaky to look at.
Well, he is, but come on, he is
But
an
he's
alien.
he's good
Yeah,
when he's in like the way.
his heart's in the right place,
It is. It is.
right here.
Yes. Oh my God. Another Steven Spielberg joint.
Yeah,
I think this movie's interesting too because like obviously it's like about a shark, but like it's not really about a shark, right? Like I
right.
think it's about, like we talked about with like comparison to COVID, right? It's about like how governments and people handle problems, and do they
Hmm.
prioritize the people or profits, or what is it?
Right.
And it's also about like, I don't
Or how
know.
they misdirect their attention. Like they
Right.
don't deal with the real issue. They sort of deal
Yes.
with the stuff around it and then try
The way
to
they sort
sort of,
of like manipulate kind
yeah,
of the public perception, right? Like the PR, they're more concerned with
right.
like the PR of an issue rather than an actual issue, which feels very like how
Yeah.
society works. Like,
Still translates pretty well 50 years later, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's like, no, it doesn't matter that like this thing is happening, but like we can't let anyone talk about this thing
Right.
is happening.
But yeah, see, you
We
don't
don't want anyone to
understand.
know.
Yeah, that's not the real issue. It's not the issue about the shark eating people. It's about, the fact that our tourism dollars are going
Yeah.
to go way
We
down.
can't have people worried about a shark eating people.
Right.
That's the real issue.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
people are worried about a shark eating people, not the shark eating people. But we
Right,
can't have
right.
people thinking about that because then they won't come spend money here and
And and
swim,
and yeah, and
patronize our hotels and businesses.
fill our coffers with their hard-earned vacation dollars.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, and I think it's interesting too. Like I said, it's just like the guys on the boat. It's like three very different like kinds of
Hmm.
guys, like different like
Was one Quint
masculinity.
well, and from maybe even different socioeconomic levels.
Hmm. Hmm.
Brody being, sort of like I guess the working, government worker, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
I would say he put him a little more middle class, and Quint a
Yeah,
little more working, like
working
lower.
class, the blue collar kind of guy, and then
Hmm.
and of course Hooper being
Hooper's rich
rich,
academic.
and yeah, exactly, and went, studied or lived up in New England. I guess he said he was
Hmm.
up there, and he
Yeah.
had a boat when he was little, and
Hmm.
that's how he got in. That's how he got into sharks.
Yeah. And he's got the like theoretical knowledge, right? He's got the book learning
Hmm.
about sharks,
Yeah,
whereas Quint is like, I am out in the water killing sharks.
right.
Like
The practical working man's
I
knowledge.
was almost like a shark. I looked a shark in the eyes that like ate my comrade.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So they come at it from a different, and Brody's like, I want nothing to do with sharks.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
like, I
sorry
just
I
want
even
like
came to this town.
order. I just want
Yeah.
order. I want
Yeah.
things to just be safe and normal.
I don't want any. Yeah. I came
They
here
both are
so.
like into the shark.
And Brody's like,
Brody's like, can we just not have the shark, please? I would love if we just did not have this. So
yeah.
we could just like, I came here to be chill.
Yeah. So I didn't have to worry about chasing people or people chasing me.
People getting killed.
Yeah. Or shooting each other. They don't do that
Right.
here.
I was
So
looking for like get cats out of trees level of work here.
yeah, or like dealing with the stuff that he
Right.
got, oh, so and so's parking in front of my store for
Exactly.
35 minutes instead of 30 minutes. And
Yes.
so,
That's the
yeah.
level.
Um,
Your cat heard me say cats and trees.
yeah,
And she
I
was
know.
like,
Yeah. She's
"Yes."
like, yes, 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 I could be in a
You said
tree.
cats? But yeah, like he was like, I did not ask for this. So
No. And
it's funny to just see like those very different like orientations toward the issue.
mhm.
All these different guys.
Well, like you
Um,
said, Quint's going at it from a different perspective. He's relishing this, and so
mhm.
is Hooper in a way, because to
Yeah.
him, it's like he's never seen a shark this size. Probably Quinn's
Right.
never seen a shark this size, but they both want to see it for different reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Hooper, it's like the knowledge of it, right?
Right? Yeah. Oh my
Hooper is
gosh.
curious. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like I can like
Yeah.
tell all my academic buddies about this and like take a picture and like
Right. I saw
be
this shark where,
published in a textbook or something."
yeah,
And Quint's like, "I'm gonna kill this damn shark." Like this
this
is
thing's it's gonna
the
be on the front of my
pinnacle.
house. Yeah,
Yes. And
exactly.
this is like the ultimate like shark to kill. I've killed all these other sharks, but like this one will be
Right.
the one.
Right.
Right. And
It's
that's what you see when he like destroys the radio. He's like, "Oh no, you're not calling for help.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
shark is mine.
Nobody's taking this away from me. Yeah.
I'm killing this shark. This shark's got my name on it. This is for the USS Indianapolis." And then the
For
shark killed
what's
him.
his name? Bosun's mate, baseball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, his buddy who was bobbing like a top. So,
Yes.
uh, but
Yes.
I mean, the filmmaking. If it was because as we assume it was because the mechanical sharks didn't work, but Spielberg, I think, did a really, really, really good
Hmm.
job of the implied danger and threat
Yeah.
and intention without actually showing the monster.
Right. And I mean, this is what like launched him, right? Like I think he did like one TV movie and one other movie before this, but they're not ones
he
I ever heard of.
Duel. He did
Duel
Duel
was like the TV
with
movie.
Dennis Weaver, and then he did
The Sugarland Express.
Sugarland Express, and
Yeah.
yeah, this was
But
the
then
movie
like,
that
he
made
did
him.
this, then he did Close Encounters, and then he does 1941, Indiana Jones,
Indiana
ET.
Jones.
So like and then
And
later
goes
The
on.
Color Purple, which was a weird like a random, although it's
Yeah.
still a good movie, but
Oh
like a
yeah, yeah,
very very different like a
yeah, and
departure.
Schindler's List,
Yeah.
and then Saving Private Ryan.
Hook. That was a favorite of mine as a child. We're definitely going to be watching Hook at some point.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
Anyways, but
Um,
yeah, I think that this is like a really good, and like you said, even if it's because of technical difficulties, the way that it just shows that like a creative person can like make the
mhm.
best of that situation. Because I think it's better than if we had seen the shark the whole time.
I agree. I think if it had worked and everything, and we'd seen the shark, because they said that that's what they wanted the opening scene to be, to show the girl being eaten by the shark, and
Mhm.
it turned out they could. And I think, to me, I don't think it could be any more frightening than what it was to see
No.
her just being utterly helpless, and you don't know what's gone.
Yeah.
You know it's a shark, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
And
To
she
know
can't
something
see
is
it.
there and to not
Right.
see it is
To not.
just a different like level of scary, right? Because then your brain has to fill it in.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, to me, I remember watching it. It's more terrible than you could ever, actually, that it could be. Your imagination just paints the
Yeah.
picture. So,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
yeah, different type of movie. But gosh, even if you have seen it, if you haven't seen it in a while, I
Hmm.
enjoyed seeing it again. I really did.
Same.
It wasn't a movie. It's not an overly long movie, but it's also not a short movie. So, but to me, it was like, it didn't drag or anything. It
No.
doesn't. There's no downtime in it.
No.
Uh,
And like I said, it does feel like it's kind of got like two, almost like an act one, act two kind of thing, right?
oh
'Cause
yeah, very much
act
so.
one, we're in Amity, and then like act
Mhm.
two on the
We're
Orca.
on the yeah the and all that takes place there, and then the
Hmm.
revelations about, like I said, the differences, I think, show up more than in, like you said, the three main characters,
Yeah.
and their reasons for being there, and
Hmm.
what they, Brody just wants to get rid of it, Hooper wants to study it, and Quint wants to kill it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Who do
so
you relate to? Who's your, if you were a Hooper Quinter Brody, who do you
Bro,
think?
I'd be Brody. I always, whenever I thought about that, because I always thought, that I'd be Brody. You just want things to be in the right place. This is, yes, I understand now that we have to respect, animals in their territory and stuff like that. But it came into their town or their waters, and so maybe not necessarily kill it, but like he said, shut off its food supply and it'll go
Hmm.
away. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, just restore normalcy to the
Yes.
to
Let's
the.
rehome this shark.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just have things the way they were. Or
Yeah.
let's go back to peace and quiet, and like you said, and fun times getting kitty cats out of trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
what
Yeah. I
about
think
you now?
I
What Who would
I
you
think
be?
I lean between a Brody and a Hooper because I do think that I am a curious person who like wants to know stuff,
I could see that. So,
but like not about sharks specifically. But
well,
I think
no, but
if it was something else, I might,
yeah,
be
yeah. I mean, you don't
be
want
in the
to
Hooper role.
put
Um,
yourself in a position to get eaten by the shark.
no, like I
That
would not be in a shark cage. I'm not. I'm like I mind my business. That's your house, and I will stay in mine. You know what I mean? The ocean is your home.
right, right,
I'm
yeah.
fine with staying away.
Hmm.
So I think on that, that's where I lean more Brody.
Brody.
I'm like,
So,
let me stay out of your. I just don't want you in my space. That's how I feel about like bugs. I'm like, bugs, you're good. You do your thing, but like maybe you don't need to be inside my home.
well, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I
So
don't
like
mind
same with
bugs.
sharks. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can like not eat people on my beach. You
Yeah,
like you have this whole ocean. You have
yeah,
so much room.
and there's lots of
If you could
fish.
just go over there.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in your face, but like as I am like a Hooper type person, the pursuit of knowledge is a motivational tool for me. I'm very curious.
sure, I can see
So
that.
I do relate to like that bit of it and like the excitement of it of
Hmm.
like that, even if it's like, ugh, but it's like, oh my God, I want to like know this is wild. Like, oh my God, can you believe this is happening? Like, I do relate to that part of Hooper. Just like
Okay.
again, I'm not getting in a cage to be face to
No,
face
no,
with a shark.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, putting yourself in a position where like, ooh,
Yeah,
I don't think I really
no,
want to be here. So, so well,
no, for
I'm
sure.
glad you enjoyed it. So, and
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
think that again, it's another one that's a classic for a reason.
hmm,
I think
hmm,
it's just like a good, like the visual storytelling, the story itself, like the characters are interesting. It's just a good movie.
yep, I agree. So
And I
yeah,
think that's why it inspired the summer blockbuster. Like I think so many things kind of have been inspired by it.
hmm,
So, and it's for a reason. So, shout out to Steven Spielberg and
no, exactly, yeah,
Peter
great,
Benchley and
and
all these people, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss.
Robert
Rest in
Shaw,
peace
yeah,
to Robert Shaw.
and
Well, and Roy Scheider.
and Roy
Roy Scheider is
Scheider,
also
yeah, Roy
dead.
Scheider's not, yeah,
He
and
died in like 2008 though, so he was actually like
lived a little bit
older
longer,
when he
yeah. So
died. Yeah, Richard
yeah,
Dreyfuss is still with us, apparently being a total jerk. So
I reckon so. Gee, Matt,
you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, I guess, is the as they say in
as they
Batman.
say. Mhm. So, any parting thoughts on don't swim
Um,
with sharks?
yeah, it, they like it when just be still if a shark comes up to you. Don't kick your legs.
Okay.
If you wear shiny stuff in the water, they might think you're a fish. Estuaries
Oh, and punch
are
him in the
dangerous.
gills,
Punch
right?
them in the gills. Don't try to punch them in the nose, it's too close to the mouth. The gills in the
Got.
side of the head, that'll disorient them.
Okay. All right.
And try to, move slow, back away out of the water.
And or hide in coral.
Yes, back up to coral so you can kind of keep it in front of you,
Oh,
basically.
okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
That's the
Okay.
idea. So like
Oh,
it
oh,
can't get
oh,
behind you.
oh. Okay.
If you're
So
like, you're out in the ocean, there's nowhere else to go.
right. Okay.
Back up to something so that at least you keep it, you keep it
It,
in your view.
in your vision.
It can't get
So
behind you.
okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay. All right.
and then farewell and adieu, you fair Spanish ladies. Well, yeah, so I think that's all we got to say about Jaws. I think, I'm sure many people have talked about Jaws before, so this is
Oh, I'm
not
sure.
a
Yeah, I
not a
don't
new
think we're adding
conversation.
anything new to the conversation, but hopefully we maybe pique some interest and maybe somebody will go, "Oh, I haven't seen that in a while. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
watch that again." Or,
absolutely.
"Gee, I never saw Jaws. I never saw the
If you
whole
haven't,
thing."
you should definitely check it out. I think
Oh
it's like
yeah,
I said,
yeah,
it exists as a classic for
for
a
a good
really good
reason.
reason.
Yeah.
So,
So
well, thank you all for tuning in. With that, I will say once again, please make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can leave us a review or comment, and hopefully a nice one. You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod just to keep up to date on what we're covering. And every week we're trying to post some clues about what's coming next, so you can see if you can guess. But yeah, until next time, bye bye.
take care.